Hello everyone, welcome back to Did You Know, where we discuss a series of topics relating to property investment and home ownership in Singapore. My name is Joanne from Singapore Realtors Inc. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about 7 mistakes people usually make when it comes to renting an apartment in Singapore. Trust me, you would have wished that you have seen this before you go out and sign your next lease agreement. There are a lot of factors to consider when looking for your new home, and there's probably a lot of things you have to do. But here are 7 things that we're going to talk about that you should not do when it comes to looking for your new nest. First up, not looking at your property twice. A lot of tenants usually request for a second and sometimes even a third or a fourth viewing, but how many times are you supposed to view a place to make sure that it is the right one for you? Your first viewing is typically done during the day, and depending on the facing of the unit as well as your concern, you may want to schedule the next viewing during the hottest or busiest time of the day. Meaning to say, if you're looking at an east or west facing unit, you do want to do your next viewing either in the mornings or late afternoons respectively, to determine if there is too much sunlight coming in at any one point in time. Your second viewing should be done according to your concern. If you're looking at a pool-facing unit, you should come back on a weekend afternoon. As for road-facing units, you should come back in the evening where traffic conditions are usually heavier. This way, you'll be able to get a more accurate picture on actual living conditions. Pro tip, don't be afraid to ask for a little more time in the apartment to hang around a bit longer than you usually do. Number 2, not asking about your landlord's profile. You see, in Singapore, landlords are often very particular about a tenant's profile. It is a common practice for landlord agents especially to ask for your occupation, family size, nationality, and such. It is understandable from the landlord's point of view, given that it is a very high value asset that he or she owns. But there is no harm in you learning a little bit more about the landlord if you have taken a liking to his or her apartment. It is always good to know if they have any intention to sell, especially in the near term. If so, are you prepared to accommodate sale viewings in the near future? Pro tip, your interaction with the landlord's agent or representative is also essential. Bear in mind that he or she is ultimately the gatekeeper and message bearer to the landlord. The last thing you want to deal with is an agent who is incapable to negotiate requests and terms between you and the landlord. Next up, not checking how long has the property been on the market. Not often are apartments handed over swiftly with no vacancy period in between, in which case you might want to note when the apartment was last empty. If your move-in date is a month or later than a month, there is no harm in requesting for a touch-up cleaning prior to you taking over. Pro tip, ask for a receipt proof, especially of any last aircon servicing and or cleaning that is being done to the unit. Next up, not finding out how much is your minor repair clause and the warranty period. A lot of tenants may not know this, but there is no standard agreement in the leasing of private properties. Agents will always tell you that this or that term is standard, but ultimately the tenancy agreement is a private arrangement between both landlords and tenants. Hence, every agreement will be different. This is why a good agent will make sure that there is no ambiguity when a problem arises in the future. Normally, upon moving in, the landlord will provide a warranty period on all appliances and repairs for a set term, for example, a month. During this month, all defects lodged will have to be repaired and paid for by the landlord. After which, the tenant will have to share this liability as part of the maintenance of the place. The minor repair amount is how much you have to fork out as a tenant before the excess is being borne by the landlord. Pro tip, the minor repair clause is usually set between $150 to $300, depending on the condition and the finishes of the house. Next, the standard of yielding up the place. This is where your security deposit is concerned. The formula of yielding up the premises would be how the apartment was handed to you minus the wear and tear of the apartment during your stay. Check with your landlord on what is required of you during the lease term. Do you have to dry clean the curtains or patch back any nail marks on the wall to avoid unnecessary deductions on your deposit? Pro tip, the best test on fair wear and tear is to look at your neighbor's units to see if they have the same signs of aging, not on them but on the apartment. Then we have breaking your lease. Well, because of the COVID situation, it is ever more so important to ensure that you can exit from your current tenancy agreement and discharge yourself successfully should your financial situation change. This means that if you lose your job, especially as a foreigner, you may be asked to leave Singapore on very short notice, and you may not be able to fulfill the lease term in full. Check with your landlord if you have a diplomatic clause and make sure that it is worded clearly to entail any penalties if you're terminating your lease prematurely. Pro tip, just ask for a copy of this diplomatic clause. And last of all, penning down your request in writing. I cannot reiterate how important this is. Upon viewing the house, particularly on the second or third time, you should have an idea on what needs to be done prior to you moving in. So if you have any requests to make sure that most of these requests can be taken care of in your letter of intent. However, you do notice that all letter of intents are subject to contract. So once you have received your tenancy agreement from the landlord, counter-check this against your letter of intent to make sure that all your requests will be acceded to. Pro tip, and very important tip, is that you may want to engage an agent to represent you to make sure that your interest is well protected and that your request can be successfully pushed through to the landlord. In essence, not everyone is savvy with the legality of tenancy agreements and what the norms are. You may be in safer hands with an agent who can well protect your interests as well as your security deposit. If your lease is about to expire, or if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need a second opinion on your rental situation, you can contact me by scanning this barcode over here, and we can have a quick chat on WhatsApp. Thanks for watching this episode of Did You Know? Remember to like us, follow us, and subscribe us so that you will not miss out on my next video. My name is Juan, and I hope to see you soon. Ciao!